Welcome to Movie Lover News. I'm your host, Tyron Rubin, doing the show with Alex, and we are bringing you the #1 movie news show on earth. There have been new castings added to the Superman cast. In the last show I reported that Henry Cavill is Clark Kent's Superman, and now we have confirmation on Superman's parents, and it's really great news for me who the parents are. It's confirmed that Kevin Costner will play Jonathan Kent in the Zack Snyder directed Superman films. Warner Brothers Pictures and Legendary Pictures announced that Kevin Costner will play Jonathan Kent, the father who raised Clark Kent as his own son. Zack Snyder said that Jonathan Kent is the only father figure Clark has ever had, the man who was there to help Clark understand what he was meant to do in the world as Superman. Kevin will be able to communicate the quiet strength of this rural American man who raised the greatest superhero of all time. Kevin Costner will star alongside Diane Lane, who will play his wife Martha and the mother of Clark Kent. So we have Kevin Costner as the father, Jonathan Kent, and Martha Kent, the mother, played by beautiful actress Diane Lane. I don't think they could have cast better than this. This is extremely great news for me. I'm a huge fan of both of those actors. And in a couple of new updates on the film, Zack Snyder has said, literally, the one thing that everyone can start to think about is that we're making a movie that finally goes with the approach that there's been no other Superman movies. Zack Snyder goes on to say, if you look at Batman Begins, there's that structure, there's that canon that we know about and respect. But on the other hand, there's the approach that presupposes that there haven't been any other movies. In every aspect of design and of story, the whole thing is very much from the perspective of respect the canon, but don't be a slave to the movies. Our Superman, Zack Snyder says, he's got things to figure out. He's a physical cat. He also added a little bit more excitement for me by saying Superman is the one constant in the universe. You know that if you do Superman right, or at least if you do him with respect, you know you end up with something great. But in some ways beyond that is virgin territory. No one knows what that is. In some ways, Superman is the most recognized superhero on the planet, but also the most unknown. Just what he can be. People have preconceived ideas about him, but probably all of them are wrong. He also was asked about the costume. He never gave much updates on Superman's costume, but said that he will obviously show a picture before someone on the internet takes a snapshot on set. And in terms of the size and epic scope of this Superman production, he says it's going to be epic, but you can just start with page 1, shot 1, and next thing you know, you're in it, and then you can't go back. It's the journey of 1,000 steps, as they say. So we have Zack Snyder directing Superman Man of Steel, due out in December 2012. We've got Christopher Nolan who's producing it alongside him, which is great for the DC camp. Zack Snyder directed Dawn of the Dead in 2004. In 2006, he wrote the screenplay and directed 300. What was interesting about 300 is it was a box office success. He delved into quite a bit of new technology. And if you look at the graphic novel for 300, it is exactly the same as the film. He managed to capture the greatness of the graphic novel. It was a very short graphic novel. Then in 2009, he was the director of Watchmen. Watchmen was written in 1986 by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, and is probably the most quintessential graphic novel of all time. When Time magazine listed the 100 greatest novels of the last century, Watchmen was the only graphic novel in that list. And it was obviously a tough film to make, Watchmen. And I think he learned a lot of aspects of superhero films while making that. In 2010, he had his foray into animation, directing Legends of the Guardians, The Owls of Ga'Hoole. And this year we can see from Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch, the much anticipated film which is being released on the 25th of March. And what's interesting about Sucker Punch, it looks like it's got such extravagant visuals that we haven't seen. It looks like it's a high octane ride. So having a director of 300, Watchmen, directing Superman, it's really going to be extremely interesting. They've cast Henry Cavill, which I've mentioned in a show before, as Superman, And what I like about it is that when they cast Brandon Routh as Superman, they showed how much he looked like Christopher Reeve, how much he looked like Clark Kent. Henry Cavill is a rugged, looking more hardcore than Brandon Routh, so it's really great to see him in this role, and we haven't seen him all over the place, which is also interesting. We can see him in the Immortals on the 11th of November this year, and he's the star of the Tudors. He plays Charles Brandon. Diane Lane, who's cast as the mother, she acted in The Secretariat in 2010, and she's had such a diverse range of roles. She was in a thriller, Untraceable, in 2008, sci-fi film Jumper in 2008 as well, action film Kill Shot, and then romantic comedies like Must Love Dogs and Under the Tuscan Sun. And I clearly remember a great performance from her with Richard Gere in the film Unfaithful in 2002. So she's got such a great range, and she's just such a perfect actress for the part of Superman's mother. As far as Superman's father goes, Kevin Costner, this was also extremely exciting news for me. He can be seen in a film he's directing called A Little War of Our Own, which has been released this year. He was in the film The Company Men last year, and some of his most notable films are some of my favorite films of all time. 1994's Wyatt Earp, 1992's The Bodyguard, 1991 JFK, 1991 Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and he won an Oscar for Best Picture, he won an Oscar for Best Director, and was nominated for an Oscar for Best Actor in one of my favorite films, Dances with Wolves. The writer of the screenplay and the story for Superman Man of Steel is David S. Goyer, who's the writer of The Dark Knight Rises, who was the writer of the story for The Dark Knight, Jumper, Batman Begins, Blade, Dark City, so it's great to have him on board as the screenwriter. And Christopher Nolan is fully on board as producer on this film. He has The Dark Knight Rises due out in the same year, next year, on the 20th of July. He is writer of the screenplay, producer and director of The Dark Knight Rises, which has Christian Bale as Bruce Wayne Batman, Anne Hathaway as Selina Kyle Catwoman. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's just joined the cast as Alberto Falcone, aka The Holiday Killer. Gary Oldman's back as Jim Gordon, Tom Hardy's back as Bane, Morgan Freeman back as Lucius Fox, and Michael Caine back as Alfred. So to round up this detailed show on Superman Man of Steel, which is due out in December, it sits at a 10 out of 10 on my personal excitement meter. Having Kevin Costner, Diane Lane, Henry Cavill, having Zack Snyder directed, I was a little bit skeptical at first, but I'm sure Sucker Punch is going to be really surprising, really interesting, and he's a very experienced director, and having Christopher Nolan collaborate with him as producer on this film and have The Dark Knight Rises due out in the same year, it's extremely exciting for DC, because obviously Marvel have a lot of films coming out on their side. So thanks for watching Movie Lover News. Remember, I will bring you shorter, quicker shows than this, movie updated shows. So be sure to check those out. They'll be on the same channel. And thanks for watching. I'm your host, Tyron Rubin, doing the show with Alex, bringing you the #1 movie news show on Earth.